Do you have staff members calling in sick on a regular basis? We all know it disrupts work, it puts burden on their colleagues, and if it's occurring on a regular basis, leaves you wondering what the hell's going on. Let's be clear, employee health and well-being are top priorities. And I'm not saying that in a sarcastic way, even though it sounds like it. But frequent absences can really throw a wrench in your productivity and your scheduling of your team. Today I'm going to deliver some strategies to help you navigate this situation without needing to be or play a doctor. One of the things that I always encourage with my leaders is that they have an effective leave calendar. This could be a spreadsheet, or hopefully, depending on your organisation, it's actually a tracked system, which highlights over a 52-week period for each employee a pattern of leave and the type of leave that is being taken. And then it's categorised into sick leave, annual leave, bereavement leave, long service leave, any type of leave, and then you can track it over a long period of time. It really helps you identify any patterns that are occurring with your individuals. And also, you don't really want to be questioning somebody's leave if you haven't got the evidence in front of you, which highlights that it is actually a problem. If you would like access to my free downloadable leave template, click the link in the description. Firstly, you'll want to consider what your threshold actually is in terms of leave being an issue. So for me, it's usually a few key signs that I would follow up on if I was observing them in an individual with their leave. Some of these are using all of their sick leave and then waiting for their anniversary date and then starting to be sick all over again. Being at or into unpaid sick leave because they've used all their sick leave and now they're having to take unpaid leave. Regularly calling in sick on days after public holidays or attached to either end of the weekend, so the Monday or the Friday. If you have flexible working, calling in sick on the days that you're actually required to be in the office working, and frequent use of one-off days. I would be utilising whatever form of leave tracker that you have available to check for patterns. So if you start to notice something with an individual, you're not leaving it until they get into unpaid leave to deal with it. It's also useful to track the annual versus the sick leave, as often there's a direct correlation for somebody who refuses to take any annual leave and then they're often sick because they're actually run down and burnt out and just need a break. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Nikki and I've been in leadership for over 17 years and I've gone from leading just 2 people to leading leaders of large teams. And I have had quite a few situations where I've had to run through the process of managing leave. The first step, if you identify a potential issue, is to consider what's going on for that individual. Jumping to conclusions at this point is not helpful. Consider a few of the common possibilities. One could be genuine illness. Maybe they have a chronic health condition or have genuinely been dealing with some short-term sickness in their family. Another one is burnout or stress, and again this could be that they're not taking annual leave but they're really relying on their sick leave to help pull them through, but they just need a break. And of course there's personal issues. Unforeseen personal circumstances can cause you to need to take time off. Once you've reviewed the leave data and made sure that you are informed about what else could be going on for the individual, step 2 is the open and honest conversation. Schedule a private meeting and start off with expressing concern around their well-being and the impact on the team. Focus on really trying to understand what those underlying reasons could be without placing any blame or accusation. I would start the conversation by doing a general check-in with them. Just ask them how they are, what's happening for them, what's going on for them. And then depending on what comes out from that, lead into your observations. Stick to the facts, again, without judgment, and then allow them space to fill in the gaps of what could be going on for them. This is where your leadership superpower really needs to come into focus, as if you don't leave space for them to talk, you probably won't get to hear the full rationale behind what's happening. And if you need a few tips and tricks around what your leadership superpower is, it's actually listening, and how to do this effectively with your team, click on the video on your screen. Now, during this conversation with them, you'll want to be listening for any triggers around their workload. Is it manageable? Does it seem within expectations? Are there tasks that they're actually stuck on or need some support with? You may also need to dig into what's going on for them at work on those days that they are absent. Is there something occurring on the particular days that they're sick that is causing them some anxiety, and so they're calling in sick rather than doing whatever that is? Some examples that I have seen that were quite unexpected were one individual that always called in sick on our engagement activity day, and it turned out that they were quite a big introvert, and they found the days where we did things together as a team really overwhelming, and they hated it. It was a great opportunity to then talk to them around, okay, so how can we run these days, because we need them to build our own team so that you are comfortable and you're not going to call in sick. So allowing them to input into what we could do that they would be comfortable with, but also tackle that whole idea of calling in sick because they didn't want to do it. Another example was a team member that always called in sick when they needed to run a presentation. They really struggled around public speaking. Public speaking made them so anxious and stressed that they would call in sick just to avoid it. These are things that are actually really quite common and usually kind of easy to overcome, because once you know about them, you can then work with that individual to come up with strategies and training or development or whatever it is they need to help support them. Now, if you have an individual that's dealing with a health, well-being or personal situation, you can then make a plan together about how you can support them at work, or if they need time off and how you're going to accommodate that. So step 3 is around exploring some options together, which could include things like ensuring that they're managing their available leave appropriately. Review your sick leave policy together and any entitlements, and make sure they understand them. Ensure that they're taking enough annual leave to manage their own well-being, and that you don't need to put in a plan to actually take a block of leave to make sure that they're well rested. Perhaps it's flexible work arrangements. Can they work remotely on some days to minimise the impact if they are feeling under the weather? Or perhaps it's employee assistance programs. A lot of companies have confidential EAP advice centres that can support employees with stress, well-being or health concerns that they may need to talk about further. Now, it could be that during this process a few things come up that you need to deal with. One of them could be work-life balance. It could be that their workload is not realistic and you need to explore ways that they can delegate tasks or adjust deadlines to ensure that you're keeping on top of any workplace stress. You may need to do a little bit of digging around whether or not there's a culture there of overwork or unrealistic competitive expectations around workload, as it could be that they're taking sick leave because their workload is unmanageable and they want to escape it. Okay, so you've gathered data, you've had some great conversations and got them back on track. Awesome. Don't forget to keep following up and checking in to make sure they do stay on track. There is something about the invisibility of being able to do whatever you want that doesn't really encourage and endorse continuing with positive behaviour. So make sure you do acknowledge when they are doing all the right things and meeting your expectations. But what about Drew? You know, that guy that actually has nothing else going on? The workload is fine. He just really wants a long weekend to recover from the big game almost every weekend and can't be bothered going to work. Well, if the absences continue without improvement, despite setting expectations and following up, welcome to the world of hard leadership conversations, which is linked on your screen. You are welcome. Thank you very much for watching.